Hello everyone, good day. Welcome to our major activity 5.1. So, we're going to make a C program that build a tiny personal finance tool that stores analysis daily expenses entirely with plain variables and fixed format text line. No struct or type div may appear in the code. So the exercise focuses on the file handling calls in hands out, fopen, fclose, fprint, fscanf, fseek, and ftel, and the standard text file modes such as A, R, R plus, and W plus. So go through our code. So as you can see, we have three file header files. So these three header files is responsible for first is the standard input output, which for the scanf and printf, and then we have second header file, which is the standard library, which is responsible for the file handling, and then such as the malloc, free, exit, atul, and um, atuf, while are not all directly used in this exact snippet, so it's good practice to include it for general utility functions. And we have here our third header files, which is responsible for the string manipulation functions like string copy, string compare, string length, and then string CSPN. So let's proceed to our int for our main function. So this is our int main. So so this line defines the main function, the entry port of the C program. So this the this is where the execution begin. The int indicates that the function will return an integer value, typically 0 to indicate successful execution. So we have here some variables. First is the character choice. So this line declares a variable named choice. So of type char or character, this variable will store the user menu selection. So we have here our few variable, which is a constant char. So this responsible for let's talk about first the data file variable. So a constant character array, so string initialized to expenses dot text. This will store the name of the file where expenses the data is saved. So next is the report file. So it is also a constant character array initialized to category report that text. So this will store the name of the file where the category report is written. So have here our max rex, so equals to initialized to 100. So this is a comment indicating its safe upper bound for the number of records, although it's not directly used to limit array sizes in the current implementation. So next is the max cut. So it is a constant integer which is initialized to 50. So this defines the maximum number of distinct categories of the program can track for the report. And then we have here next is the um, max cat length. So it is short for the maximum category length. So constant integer initialized to 16. This defines the maximum length including the null terminator for a record category string. So lastly, which is the maximum date length. So max date length is a constant integer initialized to 11. This defines the maximum length, including the null terminator for a date string in format of year, month, and day. So that's all. That's our variables. So we have here a do while loop is the code block inside this loop will executed at least once, and then the condition at the end while choice is not equal to q and choice is not equal to q will be checked. So the loop continues as long as the user choice is not q or q, which is the uppercase or lowercase. This tracks This structure creates the main menu of the program. So let's proceed to here our printf. So this display the the menu. So this lineup use the printf function to display the program's menu to the user on the console. So each printf display a different option with a corresponding letter in square brackets. So the last printf prompts the user to enter the choice, which is the null. The new line creates a new line character formatting the output. So we have here our scanf. So this line uses the scanf function to read a single character entered by the user from the console and store it in the choice variable. So the space before placeholder character is important. So it tells scanf to consume any leading white space characters like previous new lines in the input buffer, so which can prevent unexpected behavior. So that's our scanf. And then we have here um, a conditional statement. So this line starts an if statement. It checks if the user choice is either uppercase A or lowercase a. If this condition is true, the code block within the if statement for adding a new expense will be executed. So inside in the if, so we have here a, a variable which is a date. Then a character array is to store the data of the expense. So its size is maximum date length plus 1 to accumulate the data string and its null terminator. So then we have here also the cat. So a character array to store the category of the expense with a maximum length of max can cat len, which is our constant car recently. So we have here AMT. So double AMT is a precision floating. So point variable to store the expense amount. So let's proceed here in this line. So this line prompts the user for date and then read it using fget. So fget's date size of date is a din. Read at most of the size date. So which is -1. Characters from the standard input or is a din and store them in the date array. So it also reads the new line character if present and appends a null terminator. So the if gets or the if f gets which is not equal to null checks if the if gets was successful. So if it returns null, it means an error occurred during reading. So example, end of the file or error. So in the line of the date here, so date is CSPN is date is a new line then equals to null terminator finds the first occurrence of a new line character in the data string. If found, it replaces it with a null terminator, effectively removing the new line. So SRCP string CSPN returns the index of the first occurrence of any character from the second string in the first string. So if gets fail, then we have here a error message, which is a pair error reading date. So if print us an error message to the standard error stream and continues skips the rest of the current iteration of the do while loop, return to the menu. So let's proceed in the category. So it is same concept. So this line prompts the user for the category and read it using fget. So the logic is similar to reading the date with the addition of a check to ensure the category does not exceed in the max cat length, which is the maximum category length. So if does, it's transit it's transcade and a warning is printed. So we have here same concept. Um, so this line prompts the user for the amount and rate it using scanf. So scanf, so placeholder long float, which is it stores in the AMT, attempts to read a double precision floating pointer number from the input and store it in the AMT variable. So the if scanf, which is equal to 1, checks if does ifs or check if scanf successfully read one item. So if scanf successfully, the I if the scanf is successful, then the subsequent while loop clears any remaining characters, including the new line from the input buffer, similar to what's done after reading the menu choice. If scanf failed to read a number or an error message is printed, the input buffer is cleared and continue statement goes back to the menu. So we have here our first line for the open the data file, which is append mode, which is the A. So mm, so if opens, return the file pointer, which is a file pointer. If the file cannot be opened, example due to the permission of the file not exist, so it returns to null. It returns null. So so if 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 the file does not open, then open and data file. I mean, so the fa if if not if a checks if the file pointer is null. So if it is, then we have here a error message or opening data file. So prints an error message to the standard error stream and continue goes back to the menu. So we have here the if print if printf. So this is responsible to writes the data, category, and amount formatted to two decimal places with width of 8 characters to the file pointed to by FA separated by spaces followed by a new line character. So then it will close the file. So just the if close. So ensuring that the data is written to this and the file handled is released. So the purpose of the print so printf record appended is to inform the user that the record has been successfully added. So we have here our next condition statement, which is the else f is continual. So continuity of the menu. So we have here our next is the list of all expenses. So this responsible for so this else f responsible for block the handles of the list of all expenses. Then option which is um, if the variable choice is equal to L or lowercase l. So it opens the data file in read mode. So if the file cannot be opened, it prints the no data and goes back to the menu. So it declares variable to read date, category, and amount and initialize a total variable to 0.0. So here it is. So the while if, which is this line, is responsible to loop reads the data from the file. Then fscanf attempts to read a string of up to 10 characters into data. So a string to 15 characters to into cut. So and a double into into AMT. So expecting them to separated by white space and ending with a new line. So the loop continues as long as fscanf successfully reads three items. So inside the loop, it prints each expense record in a formatted way and adds the amount to the total. So this is it. So after all the reads of the record, all the reading of all the records, it prints the grand total and close the file. So next we have here the daily total. So this else if, so blocks handles the daily total options, which is the choice equals to d or lowercase t. So it prompts the user to enter a date and reads it using fgets. So we have here. So it opens the data file in read mode. So it reads the data file. And if the file cannot be opened, it prints the no data and goes back to the menu. So continue statement. So it declares variable to read date, category, and amount, and initialize a sum variable to 0, that's point 0. So while so so this is responsible to reads each record from the file and uses strings compare to compare the data in the record with the target data entered by the user. So if the dates match, then the empty is added to the sum. So after reading all the records, so it prints the total spent on the base in specified date and close the file. So here is. And now for our category report. So let's go by it one by one. So this else if block handles the category report options, which is a choice equals to C or lowercase c. So it declares 2D array cats to store the distinct categories and array sums to store the total amount. So we have here for it so total amount for each category and an integer count to track the number of unique categories. So it opens the file. So we have here a read mode of the data file. So for each record, so it iterates through the existing cats array to check if the current record category already exists. So if it exists, the corresponding amount in sums as is updated. So we have here it is. So if it's new category and the number of categories such as count is less than max cats, the category is added to the cats array, then the amount is added to the sum array at the count index, and count is incremented. So if the maximum number of categories is reached, so a warning is printed and the loop breaks. So we have here. And then lastly it closes the data file. So it opens a report file in in write mode, so which will create a new line or overwrite an existing one. So it prints a header to the report file. So this is it. And then it iterates through the cuts and sum arrays up to count and writes each category and its total amount in the format category total. So are in in edit amount. So this is responsible to execute if the file choose E or lowercase e from the menu indicating they want to edit the amount of an existing expenses. So it will execute this condition, this part of code. So a so we have here a character target date. So this is a character array to store the date of the expenses to be edited. So we have so next we have here a target cat. So a character arrays to store the category of the expense to be edited. So Next, we have here a double, so new AMT. So this a double precision floating point variable to store the new amount the user will enter. So let's go below. So this is our printf. So it's date. So the user will so this line prompts the user to enter the date of the record they want to edit. So and read the input using fget. So we have here our here error handling is included. So similar to reading the date when adding a new expense. So here in the category, so this prompt the user to enter the category of the record they want to edit and then read the input using fget. So similar, which is the error handling and potential transition of the two long category are included, similar to adding a new expense. So we have here a new amount, so it prompts the user to enter the new amount and read it using scanf. So input validation and clearing the input buffet are handled as in the add new expense section. So this is it. And then we have here our data file. So this line opens the data file in read and write mode, which is the R plus. So these modes allow the program to both read existing data from the file and write changes back into it. So error handling for the file opening is included. So we have here a few variables that we declared. So it used to editing processes. So first is data, uh, date to store the date read from each record in the file. So cut to store the category read from each record. Then amount to store the amount to read from each record. Then offset a long integer to store the current file position in bytes um, using fdel. So then updated is initialized to zeros, which is false, to track whether a record has been successfully updated. So we have here a while. So this line will loop that reads through the data file to find the record to edit. So this offset equals to ftil. So greater to 0, then ftils, then fe. So gets the current file position in bytes from the beginning of the file. So the loop continues as long as the ftil returns a non-negative value indicating a valid file position. So the current position is also stored in the offset variable. So this is a scanf. So this is responsible to attempts to read a date up to 10 characters. So category of the 15 characters and amount doubled from the file. So the loop continues as long as the fscanf successfully reads all three items, which is return 3. So we have here a conditional statement with the string compare. So this is responsible to so if the if statement, so check if the date and category reads from the current record in the file match the target date. So we use string compare and target cat entered by the user. So string compare to string and return 0 if they are identical. So this part is to compute the exact byte offset of amount. So if a matching record is found, this section calculates the exact byte offset of the amount within the current line of the file. So this is crucial of overwriting only the amount without affecting the data or the date or category. So we have here the offset. So is along. So starting the byte position of the current line obtained from ftel. So we have here the max date length. So the fixed length allocated for the date string in the fscanf format. So then one the space character after the date, then string length cut. So the actual length of the category string in the current record, and the one which is the space character after the category. So we have here F6, so this line uses the F6 to move the file pointer to the calculated so amount offset from the beginning of the file. So we have here a 6 set. So this position of the file pointer is exactly at the beginning of the amount to be edited. Then fprintf, so this line uses the imperative to write the new amount, so into the file at the current file pointer position. So the format specifier, which is the uh, placeholder, which is the float, it has 8.2. So ensure the new line is written in the same format, which is a width of 8, then 2 decimal places at the original amount, attempting to overwrite it in place. So this in place editing realized the assumption that the new line, when formatted, occupies the same number of characters as the original formatted amount if the new line has different number of the digits before the decimal point, so it could overwrite the adjacent data in the file. Then we have here the if clause. So we have here updated equals 9. So if the amount is successfully written, so the updated flag is set to 1, so true. So the line break statement exit while the while loop because the target record has been found and edited. So then we close the file, which is the data file, and then check the value of the of the updated flag. So if the updated is equals to 1 or true, it means a record has found and its amount was updated. So updated file message is printed. Then otherwise, if it's false, then it means no matching record was found in the file and the record not found message is printed. Then we have here a conditional statement, which is the final else if blocks within the do while loop. So the else if equals to q or lowercase q will say printf by. So it displays the by message. Then otherwise the block is executed if the user enter any other invalid choice. So if it prints invalid choice, try again. And that's our and lastly, we have here the while. So the loop continues to execute as the choice variable is not q or lowercase q. Once a user enter q or q, this will become false and the loop terminates. So it will then return to 0. So indicates the program is executed successfully. So that's our final part of our program. So this is our activity, a major activity 5.1. So now I will show you the output. So now I will show you an example output. So let's run the code. So here it is. So let's going to add a new expenses. So A. Then we're going to input the date. So 2025 is the date today is let's say like tomorrow dates. So going to 05 is equals to 13. Which category is let's say food. Then the amount of food is let's say 250. So record appended. Then we're going to list all expenses. So yeah, we have our so earlier we input this category. So we have here 2000. Then the grand total is 250. So going to do a daily total. So what date going to 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 display the total amount, which is let's go with this date 13 2025 05 then 13. So a total spent in the on May 13 2025 will be 250. So that's our list in May 13. So yeah, it's correct. Then when going to category report, let's proceed with edit amount. So let's go edit again that date So 05 then 13 food, and the new amount will be 1000. Let's see if it works. So let's go into list all expenses. So yeah, so the May 13 May 13 2025 food category has an amount of 1000. So that's correct. So let's go to category report. So category report. So C. So category report generated in CAN category slash report um that text. So let's go to the file. So over here the file is category report text. So that's our category report. So in the first list we have 2000, and then May 12 we have 2000, and then May 13 which is 1000. So in total 3000. So that's correct. So that's our category report, which is stored in the category report text file. And then we're going to exit the program Q. So that's our output.